Anzio e-bike you see here in front of me. Here's the Rio model, and we're going to take you through a step-by-step process in order to assemble your new e-bike.
Alright, so today we're going to be assembling the Anzio e-bike, and we're going to start off with the handlebars. But before you put them on, you might need a couple tools. First of all, you're going to need the wrench that came with the bike, and also a Phillips head screwdriver might help too. So you're going to want to start by getting the handlebar, and you're going to see something hanging from the bottom. You want to match that up, and once you do so, insert it Now, you might notice some marks on the side of it. Those are actually for safety. What you're going to want to do is make sure they're located below the nut and push them in like so. And now that you've done that, you can adjust it vertically to your preference of height. And you can also turn it to calibrate it accordingly. And you can also adjust the pitch of the handlebars by the front bolt, which if you loosen will allow you to move the handlebars front to back. With that said, you're going to want to use the Allen key and tighten the bolts and make sure they're very tight, because after all, you wouldn't want to be riding and have the bolt come undone, now would you? So with that said, make sure they're tight, but don't over tighten them because you risk screwing the bolts. Also make sure you tighten the front. Now with the headlight assembly, you're going to notice that it comes with screws inside. So using the Phillips head screwdriver, you're going to want to take them out and keep in mind not to lose them. Now once you've gotten them out, you can place the headlight around the handlebar insert the screw, and now from here you can use the Phillips head screwdriver to screw in the headlight and make sure it's nice and sturdy.
The next step in the process of assembling your bike is to put on the front tires. So to do so, you're going to have to flip the bike over. But when you're doing that, make sure not to ding the back reflectors or break them, as they're pretty fragile. So make sure to be gentle and do it carefully.
Alright, so the next step in the assembly process is to put on the front wheel. Now to do so, you're going to want to loosen the nuts on the wheel so that they'll fit in between the struts. And when doing so, you're going to notice that there's a hook on them. You're going to want to fit that hook into the appropriate hole as to prevent the wheel from falling off in case the nuts weren't tightened correctly. And next, you're going to want to tighten both nuts simultaneously as to make the wheel balanced when it's being tightened. Now you'll need an adjustable wrench, which you can use to tighten the bolts. For the first bolt, you might want to tighten it just maybe a little over a half turn. Proceed with the next bolt, do the same. And the reason you do this is that so both sides are tightened equally and it won't cause an imbalance when you're riding the bicycle. It's always best to make them a little extra tight just to ensure that they don't fall off. But if they do, luckily this bike features a hook mechanism which will stop the wheel from falling off if that were to happen. Here's another close-up of it. Make sure it's in the hole like so. And you're going to notice another view where it's nice and securely in the hole. And as for the brake assembly, you're going to want to squeeze them together. Make sure the hook goes over the wire and then insert it like so. And to remove it, the procedure is reversed, so you're going to want to test it first and then pull it out like so. push it in. Alright, here we have the right and left pedal. We're going to start by showing you how to install the left pedal onto the left pedal mount of the bicycle. So you're going to want to thread it in by hand at first. Once you've done so, you can use the pedal itself to furthermore tighten it. And once you've tightened it for the most part by hand, you can use the wrench to actually tighten it fully into place, but be careful as to make sure the wrench doesn't slip off as shown, because that wouldn't be a good thing, and it is a rather awkward place to tighten it, but it is the only, so be mindful and be sure to tighten the bolt very tight as to ensure the pedal doesn't fall off. Now on the other hand, we have the front fender to install, but you may notice that it comes a little bit bent out of shape from shipping. So before you install it, you may want to ensure that everything is bent correctly and nothing is bent out of shape. We have bended this fender for demonstrational purposes. However, the next step is to install it between the gap of the tire and the strut mount. And you're going to notice that there's a hole on the fender and a hole on the strut mount. So what you need to do is put in the bolt that comes included into the hole on the strut mount as shown. Once you've done so, you can take the hole on the actual fender itself, place it in, and then use the nut to sandwich it into place. Once you've done that, you can use a Phillips head screwdriver to screw it into place and make sure that it doesn't move. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do is take both of the bottom fender mounts, make sure that they're bent appropriately, if they were bent at all in the first place, then unscrew the screw that's on the front strut, and then place it into the fender, and then screw it into place like so, with a Phillips head screwdriver, of course. Now you're going to want to get it pretty tight, and once it's nice and tight, do the same with the next side. And the next thing we're going to want to do is assemble the front basket assembly. So if it is bent at all, bend it back into place using an adjustable wrench, if such a thing were to occur. And once you've done so, you can proceed to place it into the appropriate mounting holes. Now, using the included screws that come with the bike, you're going to be using those to install it into place. So first you can unscrew the nut from the bolt, insert the bolt into the mounting hole, and then insert the basket mount into the bolt. And then finally, you're going to want to sandwich it all together with the nut and screw it into place with a Phillips head screwdriver as shown. Once you've done so, you can proceed to do the same for the other side. By using the nut and bolt assembly that is appropriate. You want to insert it into place, then take the other side, insert it, and then finish it all up by screwing in the nut. Also, keep in mind to tighten them to a relatively firm tightness, as you wouldn't want it to slip and fall when the basket becomes attached, as shown. So in order to do this, you're going to need the bottom basket mount, which comes with. And you're going to notice it has some screws. So remove the screws. Then you're going to want to place it under the basket mount and align the holes accordingly. Then you're going to want to match up one of the holes and screw it in so it's in place to secure the next screw. It may be a little tricky at first, but don't worry. Once you have the first screw in, it'll be a lot easier to install the second. So you're going to want to screw that in with a Phillips head screwdriver and do the same for the other side. It also helps to tighten both of them, simultaneously so that it's evenly balanced and so that the basket isn't lopsided, most importantly. So once you've done so, make sure that they're of a rather firm tightness. And once again, tighten them one at a time each, but not all the way. Now we can move on to assembling the top of the basket mount. Now doing so is quite simple. You're just going to need 2 screws and 2 nuts. So you want to insert the first bolt into the hole and then tighten it with the corresponding nut. And of course you're going to be using a Phillips head screwdriver to tighten the assembly, as shown. Once you've done so, do the same with the other side, as shown. And most of all, make sure all the screws are tightened so that they don't fall off and so the basket is held firmly in place. Now the next step would be to install the rear storage compartment. You're going to notice that there are 4 mounting holes for it, and there are holes on the basket that correspond. So by using those holes and using the included brackets, you're going to want to line them up. And using the bracket, make sure that it's between the correct holes. Now, using the included bolts, you're going to want to insert it into the appropriate hole and take the corresponding nut. And then using a Phillips head screwdriver, you're going to want to assemble the screw and nut together. Once you've done so on one side, you can proceed to do the same on the next. As shown. And then repeat the procedure for the front bracket mount by placing it in the appropriate place that lines up with the mounting holes, and then tighten them into place with the Phillips head screwdriver as shown. Once you've done so, the rear basket should be completely placed. And once all the screws are tightened, you're ready to go. But that's not all. You're going to want to know the basic operation of the bike itself. So using this little latch, that's what you use to flip the seat up and take the battery out. But in order to take the battery out, you're going to need to take off the bottom power clip as shown, and most of all, unlock the battery. You need to take off the power clip and then pull the battery out of its place. You're going to notice that there's a place on the battery where it fits into the corresponding battery mount that's shown on the bike itself in white. So you want to line them up together and gently and accurately place the battery back into the bike. Then, once you've done so, you can proceed to reattach the battery clip and lock up the battery. Now that that's done, you're going to want to do a final check of the entire bike and make sure every screw is tightened. Also, this is a great opportunity to adjust the front handlebars and the accessories on them. So, for example, here we have the shifter. We're going to tighten it into place. And once you've done so, proceed with all other parts of the bike. Now we'll just show you the basic functions of the bike. Here we obviously have the ignition key, which you use to turn on the bike. Then to the left you'll see the turn signal indicator button, which controls the turn signals of the bike. Also, it features a headlight and a horn,